Welcome to SarderTV. I'm Jennifer Crumpton, and today I'm talking via Skype to Maria Ross in California. She's the founder of Red Slice and the author of Branding Basics for Small Businesses. Maria, thank you so much for being with us today. Maria, tell us a little bit about your career journey. What is it that's made you so successful?
Well, I've worked in both the corporate side and then now since 2008, been out on my own as a freelance branding agency, author, speaker. And so I've sort of worked both sides, working in corporate cubicle land and now working on my own. And I think kind of looking back, I thought this was a great personal development question because looking back to kind of across the different roles that I've had, both on the industry, on the client and the agency side, is really my ability to communicate, which, I used to get in trouble for in school for talking too much. But now I found that that's really helpful. And I think now more than ever, the ability to articulate your ideas, to be confident enough to bring them forth, and to also have the emotional intelligence to know your audience and know how to present your ideas in a way that are going to be most impactful and most easily received is a skill that kind of applies across all the different roles that I've had. And I've been lucky enough that having that ability to both speak and read my audience, but also write very well, which I think is kind of a lost art these days because everyone thinks you don't need to know how to write, but I would argue that now more than ever with social media posts and blogs and email, the ability to write crisply and concisely is a really strong business asset to anyone that's either just starting out or been in the game a while.
Yeah, emoticons don't cut it, right?
No, I've actually heard horror stories from recruiting manager friends that said way too many emoticons on the cover letter.
Right. That's crazy.
Well, I appreciate the enthusiasm. No. But yeah, I think the ability, it sounds kind of trite, but that ability to communicate and adapt to the different audiences that you're speaking to, which, of course is aligned with exactly what I do for a living, helping companies with their brand messaging. But I think that that's helped me throughout my career, whether I was doing advertising or marketing planning or consulting.
What role have mentors played in your life, and who have been some of your mentors?
Well, this is an interesting one because kind of looking back, I would almost say that I've had a patchwork of different mentors, whether they were just people that shared golden nuggets at the right time or people that I developed a relationship with, people that I reported to, past managers, past executives that weren't necessarily I was directly reporting to, but people that I saw and I admired what they were doing and how they were able to get their point across in a way that was really effective and kind and generous. And I think for me, the best mentors have been the ones that have not only taught me about my craft in particular, giving me marketing advice, teaching me things about the business world when I was just starting out, but also people that I admired for how they got things done. And I think being observant about that to all the people that surround you can really make anyone a mentor in your own career, in your own life. You just have to be aware enough to see that they're there and see what you can glean from them, whether it's just an action here or there or something where they're teaching you something over a long period of time. I think there's kind of that misconception that, well, I don't have a mentor because no one's taken me out to lunch every month for the last 10 years. That's not really the way mentoring relationships look anymore. And so you kind of have to find your mentors where you can.
What advice do you give young people who are entering the business world today? It's an interesting place out there.
Yeah, it is. And I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to give some people some career advice. And I think the biggest thing that I've tried to share with them that I wish someone had told me when I was just coming out of college is that, especially with young women, I've had a few young women come into my life where they thought they had to choose between having a successful career or having a family life. And it's really sad because they're cutting off their options before they even start. And so my advice to them has always been to kind of take a step back and recognize that we're lucky enough to live in a time where they can have both. They're just going to need to figure out how to prioritize and balance, but not to cut those options off before they've given them a chance to bloom. So if they're passionate about something, it's like follow that passion while you can and see where it leads. And eventually the other things that you want in life, when you're ready for them and things line up, you can go after them at that time. But it's kind of sad to me when I see young women coming out of college and thinking that they have to choose what they're going to want 20 years down the line, and they have to choose it now and base all their career decisions on that. So my best advice has always been to just follow what makes you happy, follow your passion, and the things that are important to you will fall into place, and you'll find the opportunity to make your work life be structured in a way that you can fit in what you want for your personal life as well. It's just a matter of what's most important to you at that time.
You know, I feel like that's really prescient advice, because today it seems like people have multiple careers. We don't have to really be stuck to one choice of a path to take. And people really kind of come back and do different things at different times in their lives. So
absolutely. I mean, we live in a time where people do have 6 or 7 careers, which thankful for me, because I get bored really easily. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I like to share with them, is that they're not making a choice for the next 50 years of their life. They're making a choice for the next opportunity. And that doesn't mean they don't plan ahead or have goals, but there's a way to fit things in so that whatever's important to you at that time, you can structure your life around it.
So you've worked in the corporate world, you've run your own company, you've worked with all different levels of people. What do you think makes a great leader?
Well, I thought a lot about this question, because I think there's a variety of things that make a great leader, and I think if we had that magic formula bottled, we'd have a lot more great leaders. But for me, it kind of comes down to 3 things, and they're related in that I think the number one most important thing for a good leader is to be self-aware. And I think that solves a lot of problems, right? It solves the ego, it solves them being too mercurial, it solves them not listening to the people around them. But if you have someone who's very self-aware in terms of their own strengths and weaknesses, and also self-aware about how they treat others, which is related to kind of the second trait, which I would say is empathy, you can have a really strong leader that if they are decisive, that's the third trait, a sense of decisiveness, they can get people to get on side and follow them. And I think without starting with that self-awareness, they're never going to be successful, no matter how visionary, no matter how amazing they are at what they do. If they're completely blind to their behavior and how they impact others, it can be a real detriment to the organization. It can be soul-crushing to the people in the ranks. And so, and I don't know if this is just me jaded because I'm in Silicon Valley, and there's unfortunately a lot of very unself-aware leaders in very successful companies, so it's kind of hard to argue, are they a good leader or are they not? But really the mark of a good leader is someone that can inspire people and that can get them to rally around a common mission and accomplish it. I mean, for me, that's the most important thing. Now, if they're indecisive and can't make a decision, then people are just lost and they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, they don't know where to channel their energies. So I would say it would be a combination of those 3 traits that would really, really makes a leader stand out and is someone that you want to follow.
You wrote a memoir about a very unexpected situation that happened in your life, a brain aneurysm. How did you overcome the challenges that this presented to you? What did you learn from this?
Yeah, well,
experience?
there was a variety of challenges that came with that. I mean, the biggest things for me were some cognitive impairments that made me have to change the way that I work and the way that I operate, but for the better, I think. Because of the area of the brain where I had my brain injury, it affected a lot of my executive functions. So I get overwhelmed a lot more easily and can't filter out as much stimuli as I used to. So whereas I used to be sort of a master multitasker, my husband likes to joke I'm like everybody else now, but for me it was different. And so I've learned how to adapt around that deficit, if you will, in a way that actually adds to my life. So I think the biggest lessons I took away from that whole experience were, number one is when you go through any crisis, right, there's always a flashpoint where the life you knew before and the life you have in front of you now is different. And you can choose to whine and lament about how things used to be, or you can say, okay, this is my new reality, and how am I going to adapt to that? So that ability to adapt is what actually was the turning point in my recovery. When I stopped saying, well, this is how things used to be, and focused on, this is what they are now, how am I going to reach my goals based on what's in front of me now, was huge. And I apply it to every area of my life, not just personally, but professionally as well. I think that again, that's true of anyone that's faced a crisis, any kind of crisis, whether it's a divorce or a health issue or a catastrophic event in their business. It's really about stop lamenting the past. Here's your reality has shifted. Here's the new landscape. What are you going to do about it now? And if you learn to adapt around those new obstacles and just say, well, my goals are still the same, but I just have to find a new way to get there, it's a lot more productive of a conversation than, well, I'm just really frustrated that I used to be able to do this and I used to be able to do that. So that was one of the biggest things that kind of came out of that experience. And like I said, I'm able to apply that not only to my life, but to my work as well.
So your latest book, Branding for Small Business, I think it's in its second edition now?
It is, Branding Basics for Small Business. It's now in its second edition. The first edition came out in 2010, and the second edition is out now, and it's updated. So I'm really excited about kind of all the new content and updated content we've been able to add.
So who should read the book? And what would be the one big idea that you want readers to take away?
Well, I wrote the book specifically for small business owners or solo entrepreneurs or even nonprofit leaders or freelancers, perhaps like an author or a speaker, anyone who's sort of doing their core job, but then also doing all the business stuff as well, sort of the one-man band type of thing. I wrote it for people like that to help them realize the central theme, which is that your brand is more than your logo. It's really your reputation, it's your core, it's your essence. And by taking a step back before diving into all these expensive and wasteful marketing tactics or following the new shiny object because everyone else is doing it, to take a step back and think about your brand strategy first for whatever it is. Again, whether it's your business or your nonprofit or your author platform, for example. Think about what it is that you do, who do you serve, how do they benefit from what you offer, and then kind of how you want to dress that up. What is that brand personality? And the book guides them through a 10-question process so that anyone can put together their brand strategy with just some thought and some intentional action before they spend all this money and spin their wheels on what I call, random acts of marketing.
I love that phrase.
It is. It's just too frustrating. It's too overwhelming in today's marketing landscape. And so you can either get paralyzed by, I don't even know where to begin, and you have this great message and it never sees the light of day because you're not even sure how to go about amplifying it. Or, you go out there guns blazing and you're trying everything and then you get frustrated because you've spent all this money and all this time and nothing's working. So, I know that there's longer projects and more expensive projects that people can go through to put together their brand strategy and spend 6 months and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I wrote the book with the point, which is why the subtitle is How to Create an Irresistible Brand on Any Budget, is that it's really just the time, a little bit of focused time and effort putting together the strategy actually saves you so much time and money later.
It's funny because the word brand is just tossed around a lot. And people feel like they know what that means. Mm-hmm. But you really sort of reveal that we don't always. So let's go back and have you tell us, what is a brand and why is it so important?
Well, and that's exactly part of the reason I also wrote the book, was I was getting so frustrated that people were getting scared by the word branding and thinking it meant, oh, I've got to spend millions of dollars on a Super Bowl ad, or, oh, I'm not a big enough company to worry about brand. And my whole premise with the book is your brand is your reputation. That's all it really is. It's just reputation and impression. What do people think of when they hear your name or see your logo? And what do you want them to think of? That's the most important thing, because you can't make anybody think something, but you can take steps and you can communicate in different vehicles in such a way that you're communicating a clear, consistent message, and it's the message that you want to communicate. So I like to say that your brand is actually your core and your essence. It's the heartbeat, the personality of your business. And it doesn't only inform your marketing. Your brand strategy can inform the products or services you decide to deliver. It can inform your operational decisions. It should inform your hiring processes. It should inform everything both inside and outside of the organization, not just what customers see, but are you authentically living your brand inside and out? And the whole third part of the book is actually advice on how to bring your brand to life and how to embed it into the different processes and policies of your organization.
How do you know when you have a brand identity crisis on your hands? I feel like oftentimes people keep coasting and may not even realize they have a brand identity crisis going on.
Right. And I talked about this a little bit in the book that, a brand identity crisis is really when the reality doesn't match the promise. So it's all well and good if you decide, I want my brand to be X, right? I want my brand to be hip and cool and innovative. I want to be Apple. That's what, every tech company I work with says. But you can't be Apple unless you authentically do the things that Apple does to be Apple. And that's what I mean by authentic brand. And when you don't do that, when there's a mismatch, you've been promising visually and verbally something to the market, and then when they actually do business with you, their experience is quite different. That's a brand identity crisis. And so signs of that are, unhappy customers, the sales pipeline stalling, confusion in the market. If you talk to different people and they go, oh, I always thought you did X and you actually do Y, that's a good sign that you might have a brand identity crisis. I feel like that comedian, you have a brand identity crisis it's really just about if people are just confused as to where you play. Because the great thing about a brand is that what it should do is it should slot you in the right mental file drawer of a customer. So if they think of high-end luxury craftsmanship, if you want them to think, slot you in that drawer, everything that you do and say has to be around that message, including what you actually deliver, right? You can't just promise high-end luxury craftsmanship and then deliver a subpar product. So a lot of the decisions you make around your products and services, like your price, how you promote it, where you choose to promote it, the types of partners you choose to align yourself with, those all say something about your brand. And those should all line up consistently so that a customer doesn't think, I'm so confused by who you are and what you do. I thought you were high end. I thought you were low end. I thought you were budget. I thought you were only for entrepreneurs. If you get a lot of commentary like that where people are pegging you in the wrong slot, then you might have a brand identity crisis, and you might want to do a brand audit of your messaging, of your visuals. What is the market seeing that you're putting out there, and are you confusing them?
Branding, PR, marketing, social, all these things often get really mixed up.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about what the difference is between all of these elements.
Sure. This is a hot topic, and this is actually why I included this section in the book. I think the problem is that people use these terms interchangeably, and then when they hire someone to do one of these things and don't see the results they expect, they're disappointed. So it's sort of my public service message in the book. I'm sure you saw that I was trying to educate on that. But yeah, I mean, they're three distinct things. So in terms of how I look at it, your brand is at the core of everything. It not only informs marketing, but like I mentioned earlier, can inform operations, hiring, policies, procedures, customer service, pricing, all that kind of stuff. Marketing is an actual function in your company. And that, by definition, is how you bring your products and services to market. So everything from how you promote it to how you price it to where you choose to distribute it, those are all marketing decisions. PR is just one tactic under marketing. So you can have a marketing strategy that includes, we're going to go after heavy press, for example, in which case you have to have PR, you have to have a PR strategy. But another company's marketing strategy might not include PR. And so the two are not interchangeable. So if you think of it almost as like concentric circles, brand living at the center, at the core, informing one of the functions, marketing, and within marketing you have different tactics. like social media, like PR, like advertising, like events. Where people get confused is if they think social media is my marketing strategy. If I have a social media strategy, that's all the marketing that I need to do. And that's, as we can see, that's actually not the way you look at it. So when you go out and you hire a PR consultant or you hire a marketing consultant, you need to be really clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve and which player you actually need to help you.
In the book, you offer up 10 key questions to ask to build your brand strategy. What would you say are the top 3 of those 10? Where do you start?
Yeah, well, breaking it down even further from 10, the most important question, I think I actually mentioned this in the book, is the question about who is your ideal client or customer. Because all of these other decisions are moot if you don't know who you're talking to. Because you could end up spending all this money and time, blaring your message out to the world, and if you're talking to the wrong people, it's never going to matter. So you really need to know who your market is. And I make my clients get really specific by creating ideal client or customer personas. Who is Jane? Who is Jennifer? Where do they live? What do they enjoy doing? What keeps them up at night? Really getting into the mind of this kind of fictional but common sense look at who this person is, because the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is saying everyone is my market, or everyone that needs what I have is my market. And I can tell you that's not true. And using an analogy that makes sense for people, we can think of cars, right? Honda and Porsche both sell cars. I guarantee you they are not selling to the same person or the same market. They're speaking to different buying drivers, different lifestyles, different incomes, yes, but there's so much more than that. People that are buying a Honda are looking for different things in a car than people buying a Porsche. And you can apply that to whatever your industry is, whether you are a life coach, whether you are a coffee shop, whether you're a brand strategist. We're all targeting different people. So you need to figure out who that market is for you. And part of it is who are the people you enjoy working with, but also based on the value that you offer, who is the best fit that needs what you've got. And that's kind of the step that I think a lot of small businesses miss, is that they think everybody's got, everybody wants what they've got. And while it could be amazing, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's their market. So that's the most important one, is who's your ideal client or customer. I think the second one is, I just kind of alluded to this, is what are the benefits that people get from my product or service? And this is not to be confused with what I sell or provide, because I hear a lot of small businesses out there going on and on and on, web page after web page, about all the fantastic things they do, which is great. But if you don't bring it back to what the customer or client gets from what you do, it doesn't matter, because they don't care about you. They care about themselves, which is fine. They should, right? It's their money. So what benefit do you provide to somebody based on what you do? Do you make their life easier? Do you make them more money in their business? Do you help them cut costs? Do you improve their health? Look at it from the perspective of my customer gets fill in the blank, rather than I sell, I provide. Knowing what that value is that you offer. And I, again, talk to my clients about, drill it down to 3 to 5, and just bang the drum on those benefits over and over again, so that pretty soon, it's like Walmart. We know Walmart is about low prices. That's because they've drilled it into our heads that that's what they're all about. We know Nordstrom is about quality customer service, because that's what they've chosen to hang their hat on. So what are the 3 main benefits that you are going to use as your hooks to attract that target client or customer? And then the third one is kind of the fun one for me. It's what's the personality or the vibe of how you're going to deliver all this, based on what your target audience cares about. Is it going to be playful and whimsical? Is it going to be hip and edgy? Is it going to be conservative and stable? How are you going to look and talk when you deliver those services? And that's really, like the visuals, the colors, the fonts, the tone of the copy, all of those kinds of creative decisions are probably the third most important part of the brand strategy. So ideal audience, value you provide, and how you're going to dress it up, the brand personality.
What kind of competitive analysis should we be doing when we're building our brand?
Well, there's obviously a lot you can do, and it all depends on the resources and the time. I'm a huge proponent in kind of scrappy guerrilla competitive analysis. I think the most obvious and easy competitive analysis that we have in front of us, most people don't do. And that's actually spending an hour or two combing through your competitors' websites, seeing how do they present their brands? Who do I think they're going after as their target audience? What is the tone of their copy and their personality? What are the main benefit hooks that they are touting? And by doing this, and you don't have to look at, 19 different competitors, but try to pick the top 3 or 5 and look at them and say, what are they out in the market saying and doing and looking like? And once you know that, you can actually figure out maybe where your brand can play and where it can fit, again, in those mental file drawers. So if you look at your competitors and you say, wow, they're all talking about this, this, and this, but nobody's talking about this over here. So maybe that's an opportunity for me, and I can be the one in this field that's actually talking about this benefit. And it just amazes me how so many companies some of them are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on primary research, which is great. There's definitely a place for focus groups and analytics and data collection, but they haven't done the basic, let me just get someone to spend 2 or 3 hours on the competitor's site, downloading all their free downloads, maybe signing up for their email list, and just see what they're doing and see how they're positioning themselves.
How can we go about crafting our key messages?
This one can take some time, but I think it starts with understanding what those 3 to 5 main benefits are that you offer. I think starting from that, listing out those benefits, and then figuring out what are the capabilities that you offer to deliver those benefits. How do you deliver those benefits? So if you're going to tell somebody your product or service helps someone lose weight, how do you deliver that? What is it that about your product or service that does that? And then what are your proof points to back that up? Because it's great to make all these benefit claims, but if you can't back them up with data, with testimonials, with awards you've won, or just factual data around the types of products or services that you offer, then it doesn't make those benefits mean anything, and then you just sort of have empty messaging. So if you're looking to create what I call a messaging platform, start with your main benefits and work backwards from there. What are my main benefits? How do I deliver them? And how can I prove that I will deliver them to my customers or clients? That's really the place to start with your messaging. And then how you choose to copyright that and make it interesting for your reader is where the brand personality comes in, how you choose to dress up those words.
Content marketing is such a buzzword right now. What is content marketing, and how do we create compelling content?
Well, content marketing has really actually been around for a long time. I worked in tech for many, many years before I started my own company, and we used to offer free white paper downloads off our website, and that is content marketing. And who knew it would be this revolutionary thing that would change the way that we market, but it really is. And content marketing is all about offering value before a customer writes you a check. So no longer can we just go out there with these hard sell sales pitches. There are times and places for those. We've seen infomercials that do that. But you really want to build a brand that gains trust. So someone needs to know, like, and trust your brand before they're going to be willing to pull the trigger and buy from you. So content marketing is a way to let them do that. It's a way to say, hey, here's some valuable content. Here's a great newsletter you can sign up for. Here's 10 tips you didn't know that will help you the next time you're making this decision. Here's a podcast. Here's a blog. Here's a video series. All of those things are content marketing, and they're designed just to simply gain trust and showcase your expertise so that when someone is ready to buy, they're going to think of you because you've already been providing this value to them. And now they trust you. Now they see what you've done, they're engaged. They might have been lurking there for a while, watching all your videos or hearing all your podcasts. But at the point when they are ready to pull the trigger and buy something, you will have already established a relationship. And that's just the new way of marketing these days. I mean, it's just too hard to just get in there cold and say, buy from me. It's sort of like proposing on the first date. You really need to court your customers, and content marketing is a great way to do that.
What is the rule of 3, and how can it transform our marketing?
Well, I kind of alluded to that a little bit. I'm a huge fan of making things doable so that you act on them. And this was actually something that I didn't actually call a rule when I was doing it in corporate. I was just doing it as a way to save my sanity. But it's something that works really well for my clients. And that's whatever you decide to do, you don't want to skip a stone over the water, right? And just like touch someone or an audience once or twice and then never touch them again, because it's memorability, repeatability, consistency that's going to get you to stick in people's minds. People are too busy, there's too much noise. You can't just touch them with your message once or twice and expect them to buy from you. So the rule of 3 is about going deep on fewer activities. So for example, social media. You don't need to be on 16 different platforms. Pick 3 and become an expert on those and build a really strong, engaged community on those 3 channels so that you're consistent and you're always there and people are starting to remember you. And also that saves your sanity from being in 16 different places at one time.
Truly.
But I also kind of apply this to everything that we do when it comes to marketing. So if you're going to sponsor events as a prong of your marketing strategy, don't sponsor 50 in one event, in 1 month. Maybe it's 3 in a given quarter or 3 in a given year. Whatever your time frame is for planning, try to stick to the rule of 3. And it's amazing when I talk to clients about this, how you literally see their shoulders relax. And they go, oh, I thought I had to be on, 9 different social media channels. I thought I had to sponsor 15 different events. It's like, no, do 3 things really well and you're going to see way more effectiveness and ROI than if you try to do 60 things really badly. That's kind of the crux of it.
What are some tips for building a tribe?
Yeah, building a tribe has a lot to do with offering that value before people are ready to buy. So, you want to, number 1, give them a reason to follow you. So what is the content you're creating for them? What is the value that you're creating? Are you delighting them? Are you informing them? Are you provoking them? What is it that you're doing on a consistent basis to build that tribe? Once you've got that engine going, the second part of this is much more tactical, and it's about giving them a way to join the tribe. So do you have calls to action to get them to sign up for your newsletter? Do you invite them to follow you on Twitter when you present at an event? What mechanisms are you using so that they can, raise their hand and say, I want to be a part of this tribe? And I would add to this that, even with all the social media that's out there and the ability to attract followers and fans, there's still no better way to know who your truly engaged, warm leads are than to have an email list. I mean, it's still one of the most popular forms of marketing. I know our email boxes are inundated, but you and I both know if there's an email that we really want to be a part of or a brand we really want to be loyal to, we will sign up for that email. And so you want to be able to give them that mechanism to sign up for that email list in as many places as possible and offer them an incentive to do this. Give them, access to a free video series or give them access to a free ebook. Give them a reason, not just for the great content that you're going to be giving to them week after week or month after month, however you're doing it, but get those email names because those are going to be the most engaged people that you can build your tribe around. It's just too easy to click like these days or follow someone on Twitter. It's really going to be about getting them on your email list and creating a special relationship for those email subscribers. I do things for my email subscribers that I don't necessarily offer for my Twitter followers or my Facebook fans. Make them feel special because they really are your VIPs.
So once our brand foundation is laid, how can we actually operationalize it? What's involved?
Well, the beauty of that is once you actually have the brand strategy in place, it's amazing how many ideas get sparked from that all of a sudden it seemed like a muddy mess before, and then now you're like, oh my gosh, I can clearly see we could do these 5 things. And so operationalizing it merely means embedding it into the company inside and out, like we were talking about earlier. So you've got, as part of your brand strategy, you may have your mission statement and your brand values. How can you embed your brand values into your hiring processes, for example? How can you use them as a litmus test for the partners that you choose to bring on board? How can you create traditions and rituals and things like that around the brand? I'm working with a company right now where we're articulating and clarifying their amazing brand, that they've always had this fantastic brand. They've never just actually sat down and articulated it before. And now that we're actually articulating it, they're coming up with even more ways to figure out new awards they can roll out on a quarterly basis, or how they can choose to communicate things internally, all based on their brand personality. So it really does inform not just externally what customers see, but what your culture is able to do internally as well. And so as long as every functional area in the organization has a conversation about, this is our brand strategy, what can we do on a daily basis to bring this to life and live it out, you'd be surprised at the ideas that can spring up. I mean, I'm talking even in legal departments or finance departments. They will come up with ways to live out the brand in their daily interactions. And there's just so many different ways you can do it, from rules about how to email people, to meetings, to, like I mentioned, recruiting guidelines, anything like that that can help you use the brand on a daily basis, can help you operationalize it.
What are a few effective ways for really getting to know your customers?
I think, kind of going back to your competitor analysis question, some of the scrappiest guerrilla ways are really still the best. And this seems so obvious, but ask them. It's amazing to me that companies will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to run focus groups or collect that data. And it's like, but why don't you just pick your top 10 customers and send them an email? Send them a link to a survey. Give them an incentive. For small businesses, it's, maybe host a wine and cheese feedback session with your best customers. I do with my email list probably 2 or 3 times a year. I will offer kind of a drawing for an Amazon gift certificate or something like that if they fill out a very short survey where I can find out, what topics they're interested in and what they care about and who are they, where are they working, where are they living, what kinds of businesses are they in. And you may not get everybody responding, but it's amazing how easy it is to just look at, and that's why having that email list is great. Look at that email list and reach out to those people. Or every time you have a transaction with someone, can you ask them a few follow-up questions? Can you send them a follow-up questionnaire or survey? Take those opportunities on the everyday interactions with them to get that feedback and to continually get new information about who your customers are.
Maria, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing all of your wisdom and expertise with us at SarderTV. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
This is SarderTV. I'm Jennifer Crumpton. We look forward to seeing you next time.